Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So, this one is just, I would say it's unbelievable, but it was so obvious from the beginning. Um, People in Donald Trump's administration, his officials, are now admitting that he had absolutely no plan before he launched this asinine war. It's so obvious that people in his administration are trying to distance themselves from this just complete debacle, this just nightmare that they have gotten us into in the Middle East. So here's the deal. There were senior officials in Donald Trump's administration, not just like random, oh, he used to bring coffee. No, a senior official who admitted to Zateo news outlet that Donald Trump's bumbling regime had absolutely no plan before they launched this asinine war. So here's the article here. So the official, of course, spoke anonymously because they don't want their head on a pike, but they said this. This was one of the quotes. It says, "It was doomed from the very start. We went in with no real mission, and we all knew that. Now we have to spend the next 5 months hoping voters don't bitch slap us for it." Seriously? Seriously? And then Zateo went and they spoke with someone who was described as a U.S. official. They didn't say this was like a senior official, but they said U.S. official. And this person said that they and others in the administration knew that it was going to fail from the beginning. So here's what this person said to Zateo. They said, "It made me say, we lost. That's it. And the war had only just begun. I don't care if you were for or against this thing. If you're the commander in chief, you go to war. You can't start thinking about cutting and running that early." Really? First of all, what a bunch of freaking little cowards these people are. They have sat back and they have said nothing this entire time. They didn't bother to speak up to the press. They didn't try to stop this catastrophe before it began in its early stages. And here's the thing. Like, these could be people who are either covering their own asses, more than likely. It could also be people trying to shame Trump into ramping the war up again, into continuing the war and doing something even more crazy, right? It could be both. Could be people going, well, I don't want to be tied to this. I'll never work in Washington again. So, cover my ass and get Trump to go full nuclear. Anyway, and any hope they have, oh, we don't want to be bitch slapped for this. You are going to be bitch slapped. Trust me, based on what I'm hearing in focus groups and what I'm seeing in polling, they will be bitch slapped. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Voters, what I'm hearing, are cautiously optimistic. They want to believe that this peace agreement is real, that it's going to stick, but they have acknowledged in this focus group I listened to last week, they acknowledge, no, Trump got bent over on every issue. They know this wasn't a win, and now it's like so shaky. It almost seems like it's falling apart. I mean, there is no way that independent and swing voters are going to forgive Trump. I mean, prices are going to skyrocket unless they can, just absolutely lock this thing down. Prices are going to just completely be out of control before the midterms. So, which kind of leads me to this next bit of news, because yesterday, I don't know if you guys heard this, but yesterday Iran walked out of the peace negotiations and they refused to take a photo with J.D. Vance because Trump once again threatened them. They're at the negotiating table and Donald Trump is spewing BS out of his pie hole about how he's going to kill them. And, you can see here they were mocking him. It says, don't they think that if their threats had worked, they wouldn't have ended up in today's desperate situation? So here's what's caused them to walk, they did, and then they apparently came back to the negotiating table. But here's what set them off. So take a listen to this.
Spoke with President Trump for more than 20 minutes, and he gave some new insight and reaction about the ongoing talks that are taking place in Switzerland and the threats coming from the Iranian regime. President Trump telling Fox News that the U.S. may take over the strait in the future if they have to and collect tolls. The president described this as the United States being the guardian angel of the Strait of Hormuz and the Middle East. And the president said ultimately that would involve the U.S. taking 20% of the oil that passes through the strait. Remember, this comes in reaction to the Iranians saying they will close the Strait of Hormuz in response to Israeli strikes against Hezbollah in Lebanon. President Trump tells Fox News he spoke with Iranian officials overnight and said, you close it and you won't have a country. He went on to tell these officials, you won't even make it back to your effing country. Now, earlier today, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian said this about Iranian enrichment of uranium. The president also reacting to that. Take a listen.
We will not give up our right to enrichment. And they, too, will be forced to accept it. You all know what the so-called President of the United States was saying. He had made a complete 100-degree turn. He was saying that Iran must surrender unconditionally. Iran has no right to do this. It has no right to do that.
President Trump, during our call, responded directly to those comments by Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. President Trump told Fox News he better watch his mouth, he better shape up, or we'll take over the rest of the country.
Such a joke. Such a complete and utter joke. We're not in control of their country. Donald Trump. And this is the thing. This is the exact opposite of what everybody in America, of the majority of Americans want. I won't say everybody because there is that psycho, minute base that he still has. But this came out yesterday. CBS News just did a survey last week. Now, keep in mind, as you see these numbers, this is when people thought that this deal was done, that we had a peace agreement, that this war was over, and it was good to go. So take a look at what Americans want Donald Trump to do. 78% say end the conflict now. Only 22% of uninformed, bloodthirsty Americans want to keep this going. So obviously, that 78% includes some on the right. And so what CBS did was they broke down what the Republicans want versus what MAGA Republicans want. And it's very telling. And this should terrify Trump's minions in Congress. So take a look at this. You can see of all Republicans, 60% want this war to end immediately. When they break it down by MAGA Republicans, it drops to 56%. And then 44% of them want to continue. So even 60% of Republicans and a slight majority of MAGA Republicans say, get this over with, we're done. And then here's why they're going to have their asses handed to them in the midterms if it's a fair election, which we've got more news today about games Donald Trump is playing. So take a look at this. They asked, was it worth it? Was this conflict with Iran worth the cost to the U.S.? 69% said no, not worth it. And then look at this next one. I mean, it's just a disaster. So you look at, whether or not people think it was a success, and a plurality of Americans say this war was a strategic and economic failure. They give more credence, more praise to our military, as they should. But yeah, on a strategic and economic level, no, this is a nightmare. And if you add in, look at the people at the bottom who say that it was neither. I mean, so you have a substantial majority of Americans who say, yeah, either it was a failure or like we didn't really get anywhere. We're just sitting in a rocking chair, rocking back and forth. We went nowhere. So anyway, here's what the one thing that should have GOP Congress members just wetting their tidy whities. Take a look at Donald Trump's polling. So this is his overall approval rating in this CBS YouGov poll. You can see here, he was at a 53% at the beginning of his presidency. He had a positive rating at the beginning of his presidency. He's now down to 38%. I mean, he is in, to my knowledge, he is in the mid to upper 30s in almost every single poll, with the exception of a few outliers that still have him in like 40, 42. But even that, I mean, he is no one has him in positive territory. And again, keep in mind, this was when everybody thought that the war was ending. So we can expect over the coming weeks that it's going to get worse again, because people are going to see it's like on, it's off, it's, war on, war off. It's like the tariff taxes, tax on, tax off, war on, war off. I mean, it's craziness. And then I want to share this one last thing with you guys that I came across right before I jumped on here. Airlines are making out like bandits on this. So they had already charged people for flights, probably for summer travel, and they charged them based on these astronomical prices of crude oil. And now prices have dropped, so they're going to make a fortune. They're going to make, as you see here, $40 billion in profit because of this asinine war and Donald Trump's inconsistency and his ego and everything else that caused this whole mess. So anyway, guys, there you go. I will let you know when I have more. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.